When you think sex or sexy, dark, and mature, Nintendo probably isn't the company you think of. Not that they haven't dipped their toes into darker content with series like The Legend of Zelda and Metroid, but Nintendo tends to be a bit more welcoming to a casual crowd, with the likes of Mario, Animal Crossing, and Kirby games. Often, Nintendo is thought more of as a family-friendly company. After all, they are pretty strict on what they will or won't show in certain franchises. There has always been a lack of first-party mature games on Nintendo consoles. It's something that has always been heavily criticized of them. Nintendo really just isn't that company. So when Sega passed on a Bayonetta sequel, leaving the series in the depths of hell, many were quite surprised when Nintendo swooped in and saved it. Everyone's favorite witch lived to see another day, not once, but twice. And this is the story of how Nintendo saved Bayonetta, the series that refused to die. Around the start of the millennium, Capcom employee Hideki Kamiya, who directed Resident Evil 2, was requested to create a new entry in the Resident Evil series by Shinji Mikami, another employee who at that point had directed the original Resident Evil and oversaw development of many future Resident Evil titles. Resident Evil was already a well-established series at that point, and a fourth entry was originally on the way for initial release on the PlayStation 2. Kamiya's plans for Resident Evil 4 was to make the game into something that was very cool and with stylized action. Despite having elements of Resident Evil with biotechnology, Kamiya knew that his idea strayed too far from the series' roots and decided to take development into a new direction, one that would become 2001's Devil May Cry, a game that blended in stylized action by building up combos that would rate the player on their performance. Kamiya would have little to do with sequels that followed Devil May Cry. Eventually, Capcom created Clover Studio, where a large amount of existing Capcom talent, including Kamiya and Mikami, were able to focus on new IPs with more creative freedom and control. Despite this freedom, titles like Beautiful Joe and Okami failed to make an impact in sales, and after a few years, Capcom dissolved the studio and those who worked there left the company. After Kamiya left Capcom, he formed Platinum Games with two other former Capcom staff members in 2006. In 2008, Platinum Games would announce a 4-game deal with Sega as their publisher, which would include the original Bayonetta. All 4 of these intellectual properties developed by Platinum Games would be owned by Sega, meaning that Sega would have a say over future Bayonetta titles. From its initial announcement, Bayonetta was a clear successor to Devil May Cry, featuring a rating system based on the player's performance and a fast-paced combat system that was strikingly similar to Devil May Cry. Bayonetta's first entry was designed with a theme of exaggerated sexiness and stylish action with fashionable, standout characters. Those who played the story instantly fell in love with the game's style, humor, and personalities of the characters. The game's story would even be later adapted into an animated film, Bayonetta Bloody Fate. Despite selling over 1.35 million copies, becoming Platinum Games' best-selling title at the time, and receiving very positive reviews, the game was seen as a major failure to Sega. Between the lackluster sales and issues within Sega themselves, a sequel was cancelled halfway through development when Sega pulled the funding. Having a desire to finish their sequel, Platinum Games would shop Bayonetta 2 around to different publishers, but found no interest. That was until Nintendo stepped in and agreed to finance and publish Bayonetta 2, acting as an overseer rather than interfering. But there would be a catch. The game would have to become a Wii U exclusive. When the Wii U was announced, many people were confused if the console was Nintendo's true next generation, or if it was simply a Wii upgrade due to the name. The Wii U would launch with a weak lineup of games, poor marketing, and had limited third-party support, which was quick to end. This resulted in low sales of the Wii U for Nintendo, making Nintendo go further into its desperate attempt to salvage what they could of the Wii U. So when Nintendo stepped in to save Bayonetta 2, it all made sense. The game was halfway completed, and Nintendo needed games quickly for their console. To have not only a mature title, but one that was already established would hopefully bring in fans of Bayonetta to the Wii U. Unfortunately for the fans, this meant that Bayonetta 2 had no chance at hitting any other console other than a Nintendo system, resulting in a huge outcry. When the game launched in 2014, it received critical acclaim and was noted for having many improvements over the original game. But despite the acclaim, the game did not sell well at all and failed to sell over 1 million units on the Wii U, even with the addition of the original Bayonetta ported over to the Wii U for newcomers. The Wii U was a sinking ship, but Bayonetta was not about to go down with it. Bayonetta's stake in Nintendo would continue when Super Smash Bros. On 3DS and Wii U added Bayonetta to its roster. In fact, it was the very last character added and the most requested one worldwide from online voting. She would be the most popular character used in tournaments, but because she is so overpowered, tends to be illegal to use. With the failure of the Wii U and the lackluster sales of Bayonetta 2, many wondered if a third Bayonetta game was even possible. Bayonetta 3 was announced at the Game Awards in 2017, alongside Nintendo Switch ports of their previous two entries, finally allowing Bayonetta 2 a better chance to perform for a larger audience than she had before. And releasing the games on Switch would prove successful. Bayonetta 2 itself would sell over an additional 1 million copies for the console alone. But the status of Bayonetta 3 would soon go silent. From its announcement in 2017, the game wouldn't reappear until later in 2021, with more and more details on the game being released as 2021 ended and 2022 continued. Everyone's favorite Umbra Witch was back, but Bayonetta 3 wouldn't be without some changes. While the game does show new improvements and abilities, players would notice that Bayonetta herself had a change in her voice to go with her new look. Bayonetta would now be voiced by Jennifer Hale instead of mainstay Helena Taylor, who had voiced Bayonetta in the first two entries, the anime film, and in appearances in other games like Super Smash Bros. This would cause controversy. The supposed original reason why Helena Taylor wasn't voicing Bayonetta once again was because Taylor's schedule didn't allow for her to have the time to. However, this wouldn't be the case. Weeks before the game's official release, on October 15th, Helena Taylor, the original voice of Bayonetta, would publicly make a statement on Twitter, breaking her own NDA, in a multi-part video talking about how she was offered an unjustly amount of money for reprising her role as Bayonetta. Taylor claimed she was only offered $4,000 for the role, an amount extremely low despite the past work and training she has done. She urged fans to boycott the game, cancel their pre-orders, and instead donate that money to a charity of your choice. In light of the situation, Taylor received a mountain of support and started an open conversation about the importance of voice actors getting a respectable pay for their work, with many fellow voice actors coming forward with their personal stories. Fans of Bayonetta canceled their pre-orders out of respect for Taylor as a way to impact sales with their frustration. Taylor's message would also bring hate among the community, with many angry at others who wouldn't cancel their pre-orders, and many would attack Jennifer Hale online simply for doing her job. Hideki Kamiya would respond that Taylor's statements were completely untrue. He would also block many Twitter users who responded to his tweet, something he tends to do anyway, which made Twitter temporarily restrict his account. Jennifer Hale would respond with a brief message since she is under an NDA, adding that actors should be paid well and has advocated for this in the past. She also urged people to keep an open mind since the development of Bayonetta 3 is more than just the voice actor, and many people have put work into the game. Platinum Games would issue a formal response aligning themselves in support of Hale's statement, and asked people to not disrespect Hale or anyone else who worked on the game. But despite bringing the issue to light, further reports by Bloomberg News and Video Game Chronicles on October 18th provided documentation that Platinum Games offered Helena Taylor between $3,000 and $4,000 per session for 5 sessions, which were in line with union rates, leading up to a total of around $15,000. However, negotiations quickly ended after Taylor had requested a 6-figure payment plus royalties. Platinum Games would then offer Taylor a cameo in the game, likely as a minor character, for the fee of 1 session, which Taylor refused. After these reports once again ignited the internet, Taylor called the reports an absolute lie and a joke to save not only Platinum's ass, but also Bayonetta 3. Taylor would also add that she wished to be done with the whole affair and the franchise, meaning that it's likely, should a 4th game be made, Jennifer Hale would be Bayonetta's new voice. On October 24th, despite Taylor wishing to be done with the situation, later added more to her story. Indirectly confirming Bloomberg's report, Taylor says Platinum Games offered her $10,000, but after reaching out to Kamiya, a further $5,000 were offered. After she didn't hear from Platinum Games for 11 months, she was given a final offer of $4,000 to voice some lines, and of course declined. I think this whole situation is a messy one. It shows that there are always two sides to every story, and even then we still don't know the entire story. It does open up a huge discussion on underpaid voice actors in the business, which is a major issue that needs to be taken seriously. Yet it's also hard who you should believe. Telling only part of a story when more details exist out there can only discredit an individual. Not only that, it also comes across unprofessional to demand players to cancel their orders, while also throwing someone down like Jennifer Hale, who is simply doing what her job is. It's likely we haven't heard the last of the controversy, but hopefully for the sake of all parties involved, some kind of resolution or truth can come out of all of it. Without Nintendo, a future for Bayonetta wouldn't exist. We wouldn't have the acclaimed games that were Bayonetta 2 and 3, despite the sacrifice to console exclusivity and the controversy surrounding the behind-the-scenes practices of Bayonetta 3. How many game series can say they've been saved by a large company from the brink of death? In a day and age where a new IP can easily die, it's good to see more Bayonetta games that aren't rushed to market or watered down. There's thought and effort put into each title, and hopefully this means we'll be seeing more of everyone's favorite witch in the future. So, tell me, how do you feel about Bayonetta being exclusive to Nintendo? What are your thoughts on the controversy of Bayonetta 3? Let me know in the comments below. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.